There comes a moment in each of our lives when we have to choose between hope and fear, between believing in goodness and blessing or believing in curse and brokenness. Such a moment comes in C.S. Lewis's book, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. The Pevensey children find themselves hiding in an underground lodge with the beavers. Mr. Tumnus has just been taken captive by the White Queen, and they don't know what to do. They simply don't have the power to stand up to a queen who could turn them to stone in an instant. Just then, the name of Aslan is mentioned. There are rumours that he's on the move, and he's a true king of Narnia. Lewis writes that a strange feeling comes over them, like the first signs of spring, because this is good news. They decide that the best course of action in their huddles and as they discuss is to stay put and hope in the king who will end this longest of winters. For Jewish people in first century Palestine, I've no doubt that similar huddles and discussions would have taken place when talking about the oppression they received under the Roman Empire. What on earth should they do? For the Pharisees, they chose piety. For the Essenes, it was abstention. For the Sadducees, it was collaboration with the state. And for the Zealots, it was violence. All were working to ensure the return of a Messiah who would end the longest of winters for them. And yet walking amongst them was this very Messiah, and his name was Jesus, the one whom they called the bright morning star and the light of the world, the one who thawed hearts wherever he went and brought life at a touch of a finger. One day, as Jesus is walking with some friends, he tells a parable. He stops by a fig tree and he says, "Look at this fig tree and all the other trees. As soon as they sprout leaves, you know that summer is already near. And so when you see these things take place, you can be sure that the kingdom of God is also near. Truly, I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. The earth will pass away, but my words will not." To those who have ears to hear, Jesus isn't just promising spring, but a full summer of life. And he gives those around him tools to be able to see and spot these signs. He promises that in our lifetime, we won't only just experience spring, but also summer. We'll be able to feel the warmth of the sun on our faces and enjoy the fruits on the trees. What strikes me about this parable is that earlier in the chapter we come across another fig tree, except for this fig tree is cursed and barren and unable to bear fruit. Part of me wonders if Jesus took his friends back to the place where they had seen this cursed fig tree, so that they could see what's possible when God is on the move. When I was 18, my dad died after a really long illness and after I'd cared for him since the age of 11. Needless to say, it was definitely one of the longest winters that I have ever been through. I was so angry and upset and I just didn't know what to do. That summer, I remember going to Soul Survivor, which is a Christian camp, with the full intention of telling God exactly what I thought of him. I went and I circled all the seminars to do with God as good or God as Father, with the intent of disrupting them and telling everybody there that God couldn't possibly be any of these things. I felt cursed and unable to bear fruit. I didn't know what spring looked like. Then, on the first evening, I decided to take a gamble. I remember kneeling amidst thousands of other young peoples and praying. I think it might have been the angriest prayer I have ever prayed, and yet somehow God in his grace responded to me. Not through words, but through a picture. And this picture was of a hedgerow that went for miles and miles. And it was a hedgerow full of thorns and briars and brambles. No life came from it. Then, what started to emerge were beautiful flowers and buds. And in particular, it was a flower of a bindweed. Now, for you gardeners out there, you'll know exactly what a bindweed is because they're darn hard to get rid of. It's a gritty kind of weed, and yet they have these most beautiful flowers which come from it. And it was almost like God was saying, this season has been tough, it's been horrible, and it has been heartbreaking. But if you would just let me in, I can transform what looks desolate and broken and cursed into the most beautiful of things. When this life emerges and when you have eyes to see it, this life will never be got rid of. No matter what other difficult circumstances you find yourself in, you will find this life woven in and through it. A few years later, one of my young people painted me this picture, and I don't know if you could see, but it's of lots of thorns in a hedgerow and a flower popping up. And she said that I needed to hear that there are always going to be signs of summer in the long winters. I like to think that those images have somehow shaped how I engage with God and the life that I lead. But it just goes to show that for all of us, there are so many times where we have to choose between hope and fear, between believing in goodness and blessing, and between believing in curse and brokenness. But the beauty of Jesus is that he gifts us with these moments, as he gifted me with these moments. As C.S. Lewis writes, we're gifted to the Pevensey children, where our eyes can be opened up to the life that surrounds us in the most difficult of seasons. After showing the disciples the fig tree, Jesus tells them to be on their guard. And I wonder if he's not telling them to go back into their huddles and into protective mode, but to be on their guard for goodness, so that they don't become trapped in living in a way that is held by fear and brokenness. Jesus tells them to stay alert through prayer, because it's in prayer that we're able to receive the strength to hear those comforting words or pictures that God gives us. It's through prayer that we are given hope, through the ability to see things differently. In the words of C.S. Lewis, prayer enables us in these long, depressing and confusing winters to see when the sky becomes bluer and when white clouds hurry through the sky. It's through prayer that we're able to open and see open wide glades of primroses and feel the light breeze which scatters drops of moisture from swaying branches and that carry the delicate scents which draw to our faces. It's through prayer that we see trees becoming fully alive, when we rejoice in the larches and the birches covered in green and the laburnums covered in gold. We'll notice that when the beech trees put forth their delicate, transparent leaves, the light on our path becomes green. And this is what happens when God is on the move. And there will be a time when all will be well, when it won't just be signs, but our full and living reality. As the old Narnian riddle goes, wrong will be right when Aslan comes in sight. At the sound of his roar, sorrows will be no more. And when he bares his teeth, winter meets its death. And when he shakes his mane, we shall have spring again. I wonder what signs of spring are in your life and how you might be those signs for others.